agenda. Does anyone have any additions, potential corrections? No. Do we have any public comments? Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm Alexandria. I live by the Washington Avenue branch, and first I just wanted to say thank you guys for your public service. I appreciate it. I'm studying public policy and administration, so I definitely appreciate what you guys do.
Are you registered to vote?
I am registered to vote. But I also want to apologize because I'm a member of the public who's here to yell at you a little bit. So.
Okay, bring it on.
But yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys about an experience I had on Sunday. Well, first, also, I came from work and I took 3 buses to get here, so this is something I really care about a lot, so I really hope that it's something you guys really take into consideration. But and I'm a full-time student. But on Sunday I went to the library so I could use a computer so I could edit my resume so I could apply for a second job over the weekends. And there was not a single computer available, and I was told by the circulation desk that weekends are the busiest, especially for the Washington Ave branch, which makes sense because that's when people don't work, and it's also when the library hours are the shortest. And I used to volunteer with Literacy in New York, so I knew that there were computers upstairs, but I know that they're locked away for classroom use only. So I went to the circulation desk and I asked if there's any possibility if they could unlock it, let me use the computer. I knew she would say no, and she did. She suggested that I go to another library, so I did. I have no car, so I went down to the bus station. I waited in the cold to get on a bus to go to the Pine Hills branch to hope that there was a computer available there. And if there wasn't, I would have to come back to the Lark Street bus station and then either go to the Delaware Avenue branch or go to the Arbor Hill branch and hope that there was a computer available there. When I was at the Pine Hills Library, the word processor was slow. It was really difficult to use. The software, I don't think had been updated for a while, but I took the time, I finished it. But I just wanted to say that I really think that the classroom computers that are upstairs in the Washington Ave branch, and I'm sure in other libraries in the public system here in Albany, really should be open to the public when they're not in use. I mean, you have a schedule knowing when the classes are going to happen and when those computers aren't going to be used. And frankly, it's just a little dehumanizing. I mean, the Washington Ave branch, those computers are shoulder to shoulder, and there are a whole set of probably like 50 computers upstairs, maybe less, but there are a lot that nobody can use. And I'm sure there are constraints, I know. Again, I study public administration, I know I'm sure there's budget issues, staffing issues, but members of the public, they get very creative. I'm a full-time student, I work, I'm looking for a second job, I found my way here, I find my way to a computer every time I need to use one. I'm sure that all of you are really smart, everybody who works at these libraries are smart and can find a way to let people use the resources that you have available. The computers are there, they're already paid for. I really think that they should be open to the public. So thank you.
Thank you.
No,
I apologize, I can't stay for the whole meeting.
Do we
Yeah,
have a name?
Alexandra, Scott Jezebek, I'm the director of the library.
Yeah.
No one mentioned to you the Chromebooks that we have that you can borrow?
Well, I asked the circulation desk if they had laptops available to borrow, and they said that they didn't.
And this was at the Washington Avenue branch?
Yes, on Sunday.
I apologize. We actually have Chromebooks that are available that get on our Wi-Fi. They're relatively fast, and you could either have used Google Docs or Word on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologize in the future. Ask for them. And I'm going to give you, I don't know if I have my card, but I'm going to give you my contact information so we can talk further about this.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Or Melanie, who is the assistant director, can give you a card. We'd like to talk to you further about this because that is a major error and we are not happy about it. So,
Do you know how many Chromebooks there are typically?
There's about
We
10.
have, I think, 8 right now operational at the Washington Avenue location.
It's possible that maybe they were all checked out.
They're almost never all checked
Yeah,
out.
that's why it's
So
kind of
this is why
surprising to us.
because we understand that the closeness of the computers is a major concern, so we're trying to move people towards using laptops so they can kind of spread out throughout the library.
Right.
Also, the lab upstairs has been drastically reduced. There's only 8 computers up there. The reason why it's not open is we, especially on weekends, don't have enough staff
Right.
to be alone in that room, and we actually moved staff out of that room out of security concerns.
Right.
But what I'm most upset about is that should have been easily solved by a staff member just saying, here's a Chromebook, go wherever you are comfortable in the building, and you'll be able to do your resume from there. So my apologies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have you have your hard
I
copy?
have, I can give you mine as well too.
If you would leave it with Stephanie.
There's a sign in.
Oh, sign. Yep.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time to come down. Not everybody would do that, and that would be a concern that would typically get lost and not addressed. And I know, Scott and Melanie would both, all they want to do is
Yeah.
make sure patrons' concerns are addressed. So thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that.
No problem. Thank you.
You might want to consider running for public office.
Was it
saying.
Emily's list?
Well, yeah.
Emily's list. Check out Emily's list.
Emily's
You
list?
should have. Is it Emily's list?
Yeah.
Go
ahead and Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, not for students.
The minutes from last meeting, did anyone have any potential corrections for those?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve made by Andy. Do I have a second?
Wow.
Sorry.
Hello.
No. They're not saying it.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
I was gonna second.
Second by Karen. Put that to a vote unless there's any discussion. Ayes? Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay, the minutes are accepted. Treasurer's report, check register.
Okay, I want to just point out to you on the treasurer's report, when you look at interest income for the month, it was, this is a mark-to-market loss. So basically, most of our investments are in bonds, and since the election, interest rates have risen, and bonds have an inverse relationship to interest rates, but this is just a paper loss. We hold our bonds to fruition to the end of the term, so we will make money on it. So that's the explanation on interest income. And also to point out to you that last month we amended the budget, the budget modification, so those amended budget amounts are on the report.
Does anyone have any questions on the treasurer's report or the check register? Andy?
I was wondering if any staff could talk about the Tableau software expenditure for $5,000.
Yes. We've been trying to work out a way to do a dashboard system to show statistics for the net in many different formats. We, looked at several different options and programs. Tableau came to light, and what's unique about Tableau is it's a program that it will hook up to all of our databases and pull the information directly from them instead of having us to input all the information that we've had to with all of our other dashboarding systems. If we purchased it by the end of the year, we got the $5,000, which gives us 5 licenses for it, which allows 5 users. And one of the users is so one of those 5 is going to be Upper Hudson, so they can help us gain access to their controlled databases. And so we're hoping by June of this year, at the very latest, to have a complete dashboard for you guys set up. So at any point, you can look at all of our metrics for the library: programming, circulation, patron usage, anything of that nature in one spot.
Did you remember what the term of the software was? Was it like an annual license for $5,000?
$5,000 gets us set up for the system. It's like a $2,500 $1,500 annual fee,
Okay.
and then the $2,500 setup. So after this year, it's a $5,000 this year, but next year, if we continue the service, it will only be $2,500.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on the treasury report or check register? Do we need a motion?
Yeah, we usually do.
You have to accept
Yeah,
the
we
check
usually-
register.
Yeah, you have to.
We have a motion to accept the treasurer's
I'll make
report.
that motion.
Andy?
Second.
Second, thank you, Brenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, ayes?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions? Okay, the treasurer's report is accepted. Committee reports and action items. Andy, I don't know if you want to do just a brief.
Yep, we're, have a tentative meeting scheduled for the Facilities and Construction Committee for the 17th. And the agenda will be laying out components of a facilities plan going forward into the future. I think that what we want to try to do is have that plan. There was some discussion about this back in October, and of course it's an evolving document, but have that plan try to inform a capital plan going forward into the future and the 5-year financial plan, so we can make prudent investments at appropriate times without putting too much stress on the 5-year financial plan. An objective for a long time has been to be able to do a number of improvements to Washington Avenue without having to go out with another bond, because the previous bond was for the branches, and we've pretty much done that. So if we're able to keep doing that, I think that that's going to be a big win and a major component of what the facilities plan is like. And I think, as we've discussed in the past several times, having a capital plan will deflect any kind of negative criticism we might get for having a rather large fund balance. So, because we will have planned out some rather substantial expenditures going out into the future, but in a prudent way. So I think that's my report, unless members of the committee want to say something or anybody else wants to say something.
Any comments or questions for him? No? All right, sounds good. Policies and procedures review.
If you take a look at the policy grid updated for this month, the ones I had highlighted, the whistleblower, conflict of interest, fund balance, reserve fund policies, were discussed. We had a meeting this last Thursday. We're kind of reworking all of them. They weren't, the whistleblower and conflict of interest policies, our legal has informed us that there will be changes to the law this coming May, that will take effect this coming May. So we're waiting on him to get all the details of that. We'll revise it and then approve it, hopefully approve it at a later date. So we put those back for the time being. The fund balance and reserve fund policy, we took a look at it, but we are adding a portion to identify exactly what Andy was talking about the capital fund portion of it. So this will be a policy that will be worked on by the Finance Committee and the Facilities Committee before being brought back to Policy and Governance. The way it was written currently, we like what's there, but we want the other two committees to have their say in it before we continue it further. So at the moment, we're not bringing any policies to the table this month.
So the fund balance, you have here December 2017. Is that, we're just looking at fund balance because we're going to be doing capital fund?
Yes.
Okay.
And that should have been
Works.
December 2016. That was a typo. I apologize. Thank you for catching that.
Whistleblower and conflict of interest policies,
Mhm.
they're internal, those are for the staff.
Correct.
So,
The staff and the board, I believe.
and
they're
that's what I was curious about. Is that the policy also for the board?
Yeah.
And
It covers both in the policy.
Any additional questions for Melanie on the policies and procedures grid? Director's report, Scott.
Sure. So if you look to my report, you'll see that we're proposing doing a food for fines program with the South End Children's Cafe, which is on the agenda for later, and we've been planning that out. We've been shopping the third floor for possible tenants. I have to say that I found out on Monday USCRI will not be using the space. They actually needed more space than we thought. So, but we're still talking with ACAP, but again, like any real estate, you just never know. So we're still shopping those out. Administration and the finance department are working on closing out the 2016 budget. We're hoping to have actuals by next month. Contract negotiations have been rescheduled, and the next session will be January 18th. Community report preparation has begun. Howe is added a second So What session. The hashtag Ask a Librarian banners, Arbor Hill, West Hill, are an interesting and fun way to promote library use. So if you're going down Henry Johnson Boulevard, you'll see them in the window, and it's generated some great conversations there. If you go to the Bach branch, you'll find a giant gingerbread model of the Empire State Plaza, which was given to us by Sage College as part of the cookie exchange program there.
It's really quite remarkable.
It is
I
pretty
saw
cool.
it.
My 7-year-old thought it was the greatest thing ever. Pine Hills hosted a toddler dance party. Reference staff at Washington Avenue have been training to launch the new central library funded databases, one being Mongo. So if you're looking to learn another language, it's a really great database that you can use. Ancestry.com, which the public have been asking for the last 2.5 years. And we're changing our e-magazines again, this time to Flipster, which I've played around with and is easy to use. I don't know if it's easier to use than the past product. And we expect some complaints since we're switching that product again. Our Raising a Reader program at Delaware has had several young readers reach 1,000 books. This is a program that kind of promotes early literacy, and it gets parents reading to children. So it's a really great idea. Upper Hudson has started online card registration. We're not sure how that's going to affect us, but we'll see as those registrations start coming through to us. The foundation has hired their new part-time executive director, and he is fantastic. He's already been meeting with the staff, meeting with members of the public, and going after grant money and doing his first appeal with us. Central ordering, I like to report on this. Our head of CMS has pointed out that looking at the 2016 trends, it's clear that centralized ordering has made a positive impact on certain areas of our collection, particularly graphic novels, new adult fiction, urban fiction, DVDs, and music CDs. So we're very happy about this. This was probably the second time the organization was trying centralized ordering, and it seems to be a success. The raw data is in for 2016. Where we grew in usage, e-content, program attendance, which is at 16% growth, and meeting room use, which is at 15% growth. Flat in usage is computer use, and down in usage is circulation at 9%, door count at 6%, and Wi-Fi at a surprising 7%, because that was growing at such a large clip. The best performing branches in 2016 based on growth were Arbor Hill and Bach. They were our really big performers. Circulation, Bach grew by 7%. Door count, Bach grew by 7%. Computer usage, Bach and Arbor Hill, West Hill tied for a growth in 18%. Wi-Fi, Arbor Hill, West Hill grew by 4%. And program attendance, Arbor Hill, West Hill grew by 86%. In meeting room use, Bach grew by 45%. So we have some really good performing libraries out there. And I think we know why these branches are performing well. Bach, a lot of it has to do with the staff there and the fact that they've really embraced some core ideas like doing displays and collection development. But also they added that Sunday, and that Sunday, those extra hours always make a library do better. And then Arbor Hill, West Hill, we kind of retooled there. We added some staff there, and we've seen a major effect because of that. So really the theme is where our libraries are doing really well is where we had a stable staff and also we added. So that's it. I'm open to any questions if anybody has any.
Do you have any questions or comments for Scott?
Yes, thank you.
On the North Albany branch numbers, usually there's a plus or a minus by things, and on the door count one, there's not a plus or a minus, so it's a little confusing as what the 16% means.
That would be
That'd be
positive.
cool. That would be
Positive,
positive.
great.
And maybe the bugs. We don't know.
I told Scott this before, but I thought that the testimony that you provided for the New York State Assembly Committee was really excellent.
Thank you.
I heard your voice in this, so I know that it came from the heart. I thought it was really constructed very tightly and with some really grabbing ideas, and I just thought you very succinctly positioned the issue and APL in front of, I hope they were listening, because I think it's really, I think you got so many pieces of it. You pulled together, being a model for municipal collaboration, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
I
a
think all
team
those-
effort.
Yeah, and I just think that the more you do of that, the better. I just think that's a great opportunity for us to get the message out. There's nothing weenie in here. It's like there's nothing. It feels good, but it's solid, absolutely solid. Just sorry I wasn't there.
It's on the website.
Videos on the
The
website.
video's on the website. I sent it to my mom.
I was pre-haircut. I wasn't looking my best for that one. Skip over my testimony.
Mike was also there. Mike also did a great job.
I have a question. The Ask a Librarian campaign, was that in-house, something you guys grabbed from another library?
That was something that they came up with. And
It's in-house, and it was honestly first campaign to make use of the large format printer that we have. These are really big banners, and the windows at Arbor Hill are gigantic. So
Yeah.
it was try to maximize that visual space that we have there. You can really see them as you're driving by. They're very big and very interesting. So it was kind of a combination of the printer and the hashtag thing.
Cool. I haven't driven by there. I'll have to take a look. Well, kudos to you, Stephanie, and your folks, between that and the podcast, and recently all the work that you guys put in on the refinancing. Your shop's kind of killing it, I have to say. I like to Ask a Librarian thing.
A lot of people involved in those things.
Any additional questions for Scott? Okay. Moving on to now. Unfinished business, strategic plan update. Who's going to provide
So we're a little stalled on the strategic plan, to
Yeah.
be completely
What's
honest.
going on, man?
We've brought this to our staff. We've brought this kind of to the leadership of the organization, and they're looking at it, with their concerns and their questions. We're hoping to have this buttoned up by the next board meeting. I think what we're struggling with the most is that what we've learned is that we knew some of this already, and some of it are things that we want to do, and it comes down to organizational capacity. People want us out there more. They want more hours. They want us to be a learning hub. They want us to expand our outreach and our touch, not only in our buildings, but in our community. But, the point that I really want to bring to the board's attention, which is the last point, which is financial sustainability. This is probably going to be, I think, in the coming years, the biggest task for this group and for administration is creating a financially sustainable organization while doing all these things the public want from us. So, I think, and I'm going to be very open and honest about this, and I started using this term about a year ago, and I'm going to say it more and more often. I think we've reached organizational capacity. There are days where we know we are running a branch with 2 to 3 people because someone has called in sick. We have weekends where we're asked to be at events, and our head of outreach is scrambling to get bodies at the tent so that we can do that outreach. Sometimes we have a program going on in a library that's still full and expecting to have the full service that the public deserves. And this not only, we have an issue where we are both lean in the frontline staff, but we are also lean on the third floor. Their day does not go by where a phone call comes to my office and the person on the other end of the line is surprised that it's me. There is not, if right now we have a bout of, hopefully it's not the flu, something going through the business office. So right now we have no one to process POs and write checks because 2 people got sick. So, usually you look at an organization and go, oh, they're really top heavy. We can cut some from the top and add to the bottom. Sometimes you look at libraries and sometimes you look at organizations and go, oh, they got a lot of people on the floor and they don't have enough people doing the back end work. We don't have either. So if we're going to listen to the public, which is my favorite thing to do, and we're going to provide that computer room being open the whole time we're open, make sure that our staff are trained so they know all of our services and they know how to pitch all of our services. So that staff member who told that young lady to go to another branch should have once said, well, there's only an hour wait, which will be about what your bus time is. So why don't you sign up to wait and you'll get on the computer, or we have this new service where you can get a Chromebook. More than likely it's because that person is a part-time person and hasn't gotten full training, because all it takes is for 2 people to leave this organization and us to wait a month for civil service to let us replace that person to get a well-trained person at that task. So we're going to come back again, I think, with a full long-range plan, but I don't think I will stop talking about financial sustainability. The last 2 years we've done really, really well. We've found every angle, we've found every side hustle to make sure that we make budget. Mary and I are going to run out of side hustles at some point. We're going to run out of those extra ways of making money. DASNY, we're done with DASNY. They don't owe us any more money. That really helped us this past year. There is, who knows how the economy is going to do with the incoming administration, and we might be looking at a bigger bill for retirement. So again, we have to look at that 5-year projection. Mary and I are sitting down. We're tightening that 5-year projection. We're changing it. So maybe we'll squeeze a few more years out of that. But we have to remember, we project $300,000 to $400,000 out of our fund balance. That means a deficit spending every year until we run out of that money. It might be 2021, it might be 2025, but that still scares the heck out of me. So, I'll get off my soapbox on that one, but that we have to really understand that the public want us to do more. The public see us as a very important and viable part of the city. My staff can't do anymore. They really can't. The Disney model, which is a model I am a big fan of, says you put somebody on a desk or in a public service spot for 3 hours at the most, and then you rotate them out. Today we had a gentleman who overdosed on heroin in our bathroom. The police needed to be called. I've been involved in situations like that. That wrecks your whole day. You can't function the rest of the day. It upset me. And my friends next door at the city mission, I think, got the brunt of my upsetness for a little while. So if it upsets administration, it upsets the staff. People then after that aren't going to get the best customer service. And then that also leads to safety. If you have an open building all day long, you need community engagement clerks in that building all day long. So we're going to give you a more nuanced and clearer plan next month. But I think the thing that concerns my staff and everything that came back to Melanie and I, huge notes, huge questions from our staff. Not we can't do this, or not that we don't want to do this. A serious and really not the sky is falling response of how do we do this the way we're currently lined up. So that I'll leave.
Can I ask, was the reason why you were engaged in maybe a heightened state with folks at the City Mission next door because they make a habit of not providing a full array of services to people who come before them for help, and then they come to the library to seek.
No, I would say that it's, we want to, we it was more just I was upset. We have a good relationship with them. Perry and I have a great relationship. We wanted them to understand that this was something that we wanted them to convey to their customers, that it was not acceptable to come here before dinner or before lunch to shoot up. We want community partners. We want to be close with community partners. However, those community partners need to understand that we're serious and that they need to be our partners in this.
Historically, have they, administrators and employees at this and volunteers at the City Mission, been responsive to those kinds of concerns?
Yes. Yes. So
They've helped us on many occasions, not just with drug use, but if one of their patrons comes to the library and violates the behavior policy in any way, it's usually one of their counselors will then speak to the individual and come back with them and say, okay, this is not acceptable behavior at the library. We're teaching you, one of the things we're trying to counsel you on is becoming a good citizen in this community. And this is not an organization you want to mess with.
Have they ever explored having someone from their staff or a volunteer set up in the library?
they've done it in the past, and I think from today's incident, we're gonna ask them to start being a little bit more engaged again. We sit on the Code Blue committee, which seems strange because we can't really provide Code Blue services while we're closed. But what it's done is provided us to have a great conversation with the people at that table. We share a lot of the same patrons, a lot of the same issue patrons, and they are always interested about, we've seen an increase in finding needles in bathrooms. So they're interested in that because now they're aware. The name escapes me right now, but the shelter down in Sheridan Hollow we have a good relationship with because we saw Interfaith. So they want to know the issues that we're having because they can help us, because in a lot of ways you put it out on the street that isn't the place to go, and you're going to start getting reported on if you're there. That often helps behavior. It's just for us, I feel like I think after a year people go, oh, it's the library, and they go back at looking at the library as the library, and we kind of have to every once in a while kind of remind them to say, listen, this is what the library does, and we need to be at the table, and we need to be partners because it helps us with behavior from adults that use your services. Just like we do with the school district, we always have a good conversation with the school district, and just like we do with the Albany Police Department. So I think we're, and again, this goes back to the idea of an in-house social worker or caseworker for the organization, which is something that I deeply believe in. Philadelphia has done it. Queens has done it. There's a few libraries on the West Coast who have done it. I'm learning from when Melanie can't make those meetings, I'm at that table. And I'm learning that we really need someone to keep track at our at-risk youth and our at-risk adults, and kind of have a little bit more connection to the rest of the village who are dealing with these things.
So, strategic plan. I feel like I've gotten the message loud and clear that the organization's at capacity, and I appreciate knowing that. So when I see, we talked about the board retreat, and I see it here, there's more and more and more. I can see we can't do more and more and more. And there's certainly a resources issue, but that's a kind of a long-term thing. That's not going to change instantly. So what I'm troubled by, which is something I brought up by the strategic planning session, is that we need some kind of mid-level framing to help decide more of what, and of course less of what, so that helps guide what specifically can be done here.
It is really difficult to decide what you're not going to do, because there's a lot of services that people, or that you're going to reduce. There's a lot of services that people rely on or still use. So where we're struggling is, how do we frame that? What do we put in front of the board? How do we give that to you?
I'm troubled that it's now on you and your staff's responsibility to somehow make sense of this. You know, there's two major duties of the board, and that is fiduciary and planning. And I really have felt that that initial planning session was really just that. It was very initial, it was very broad brush, and we did not get into the details, because these decisions, that mid-level, what are you going to do, what aren't you going to do, is where we affect policy, because we're going to have to decide and answer to the public about what we can't provide or what we need to be able to provide that. And so first of all, this, whatever this is, does not represent at all your concerns that you're talking about in terms of staffing. We didn't get there at the planning session, so I'm not surprised that they're not in here. The board needs to be working on this plan, and I appreciate the expertise of the staff, but at this point, I really feel like it's back in we have to do this again. And if we didn't get it right and we didn't complete it, then we've got to get there. And there's nothing more frustrating than reading a plan that says all this stuff that you know we just might not get to, or we said it before. It's maddening. Why? It's disheartening. So I'm prepared. If this does not represent us, then let's save what we can and get going on it. I don't. Why is the staff doing it?
Well, we wanted staff input on it, because they're the ones who are going to have to make it happen. So I thought the questions that came back from the staff were good, because we need a realistic, I've seen a lot of strategic plans at libraries not fail, because they can always be massaged into something that worked. I want a realistic plan going forward. I feel like our last one was too easy, too much of a template that just kind of got pushed in. So we need one that looks at what is realistic, what does the public want from us, and at the same time, how do we do it either at the size of the organization now or a redoing of the organization so that we can do it.
So how has our process gotten us here, and what do we need to be doing?
Can I follow up on that? Has anything else happened with the consultant after the session that we had?
No, we've met with her once since then, and she's kind of waiting for our feedback to then turn around and kind of go through everything again.
Yeah, no, that's clarifying.
I completely agree. I feel like there's definitely a role for the board, and I appreciate that the staff are contributing, because we don't want it to be template. You all know more about libraries than we do, but I see it as a major role for it as well.
Okay. So it's possible. I'm sorry.
I was under the impression that once we sat down with the young lady and went over and had this meeting and brainstorming about the strategic plan, I was under the impression that we would reach out to staff and then take their ideas and their comments and their thoughts and their desires into consideration and come back to the table and continue to work on this. I was just very surprised to see that we meet the one time with the facilitator and then here you go, but yet you ask staff what they think, but if you're not going to take it into consideration, if we don't come back to the table and all we did was make a wish list, and here you go, this is my wish list. Wish lists are exactly that, a wish list. They don't work, they're not operational, you can't do anything with it except put yourself in a deficit, and someone's going to feel bad or feel shunted because whatever you plan on your wish list is not going to happen. You might have one or two things, but the rest of the stuff in your wish list is not going to come true. You're not going to have staff, you're not going to have funding, you're not going to have a lot of pieces of the puzzle to make that happen. So I was very surprised that we did not yet come back together and continue to work on this. I've never seen a strategic planning committee just meet with a facilitator and, okay, here you go, but I'm going to talk to the staff, but okay, we know the staff says this, that, and the other, but still, here's our plan. That
No,
doesn't
I
work,
agree.
That doesn't work for anybody.
I agree. So
That's my thought.
so what I will do is I will go back to Ann and say we need to meet again with the board, and we need to work on this with the board, whether or not it's a board assigned committee or the board as a whole.
Well, the truth is we didn't have a full complement of board members at the training,
Yeah.
and some people couldn't stay, and it was short, and it was not satisfying. You know, I didn't leave there saying, "Oh wow, I really got
Yeah,
this,"
yeah,
or
I
"Wow, we
agree.
really contributed." It was.
Well, I think Brenda expressed wish list is what it was.
Exactly.
Because I think, for me, I feel prepared to do what's necessary to address what I've been hearing over and over again about serious staff deficits and unsafe situations and no reprieve and no coverage. And you're absolutely right. We are administrative light and staffing light, and that's how we've built this whole plan for 10 years. And it's problematic. And the foundation, I can guarantee you, is not, it's going to take years to build something that's really going to, contribute millions to the budget.
Can I just, for my own education, as someone who was unable to attend that day, so I don't really have a good working knowledge of what that day was and really what's come out of it. For the board members that were there, is there, and I apologize if I'm opening up a can of worms, is there a feeling that the building blocks that came out of that day are worth building on? Or is this something that folks feel like we should take a whole new crack at?
My feeling is that was a start, and it's pieces of a process. It's not the process, it's part of a process. So just to have that facilitator come and okay, now we're done, that doesn't work. The whole, I just found it just very surprising that was the process. When I was reading my emails, I'm like, oh, we done? It's over? That's all it is? Even when we sat there, we still did not have the information from the staff at that particular time either. So how can you really say that you really did a comprehensive strategic plan that's going to work if you don't even have input from the staff at that time? Because at that time we did not. So if you want to provide something that's workable and sustainable and you want positive outcomes, you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle to make it work.
We also didn't, I'm sorry.
I just felt like I wouldn't describe it as building blocks. It was an initial brainstorming session. I don't feel like we came out with building blocks, actually. So.
I don't think we decided on what the process was. Like I was looking for because at the end of the session with her, we said, well, are you able to get us the material for our next board meeting, which was November? And she said yes. And then November came, we didn't have it. December, we didn't have it. And then, so it was like, and then we didn't decide what we were going to do with it after that. So the fact that it lands back in your lap to kind of make sense of it is not how the process should happen. So, it is. It was an unearthing of some basic ideas, but in none of this is that the crux of what our primary issue is going to be going forward.
Yeah, so I thought that there were some building blocks. What I think was missing is the filter. So we have this ideation. There's just lots and lots of great ideas. I had some new ideas. I heard new ideas from people. So I thought that the brainstorming process was good, but then there needs to be some kind of filter. How do you decide among them? And I made a pitch at the end that we need that mid-level. We have a very broad vision that's like, yes, we are everything to everybody. We we need to have a conversation about, well, given our realities, what does that mean? And how do we help our organization from being overwhelmed? A combination of making tough decisions and trying to increase resources.
It was a great first step, that's all it was.
And that is probably why we are kind of stuck.
We're here to help you.
So,
I see something as a simple success indicator about a 5 to 10 year staffing plan, and so which is one of the things that you talked about, which I think is great. But I just want to try to pull it back to a couple of things that we talk about every year, which is, do we have the financial ability, or do we have a plan to gain the financial ability to be able to not run so terribly lean anymore? And I think the other thing is, building into that is something that we talk about every year is, can we expand hours? Which we know is incredibly expensive. But you just said earlier in the meeting that Bach has done very well, because you think that the causality of that is the Sunday hours.
I would say the number one complaint, that I get, or actually it's a suggestion, is more hours. I just received an email the other day from a mom who said, I wish on a Sunday there
Sure.
were more than one branch open. We always talk, our circulation would go up if Pine Hills was open the same amount of hours as Washington Avenue. A day does not go by where I drive past one of these branches where I'm not seeing somebody walk up to the door and then walk away
Yep.
because the branch is closed.
Right.
There's a really good article, and I wish I had forwarded it to the board, just talking about, circulation's down across the board everywhere. In the last year, we made a concerted effort to try to drive circulation up. My staff did an incredible job. You go to every one of our libraries, you're going to see great displays, you're going to see hand selling of books. Some really great efforts. And they took that goal and they ran with it. And guess what? Circulation is still down. We look at Upper Hudson, our system, circulation is down. We look at the national level, every library at that, when we sat before the assembly, we said, we know circulation's down. People want space, people want rooms, people want programs, or they just want a location they can go to, that they can walk from their house and they can walk to. Last night we allowed a special meeting at Bach because this group needed a space to meet. I drove, unlocked the building for them, let them meet, got the boys in bed, drove back. When the meeting ended, I locked up the building, and one member of the public said to me, when you guys built these buildings, you sold it so that it wouldn't be such a hassle to reserve rooms. She was right. So loan space and programs is really the future. We're always gonna lend books. We're always gonna be about literacy. But the fact is, you gotta look at where your business is going if you own a business. Use my mom as an example. When my dad started their company, they were driving sod around Long Island. Then they started delivering home heating oil. Now they deliver kerosene and diesel. Over the years, and the business has always done well because over the years they figured same delivery method, but they always figured out it's what they're delivering is something different. Our patrons still want books, but they want space and they want a place to go. They want programs to go to. The kids here want to come and do jiu-jitsu and sew things. The kids at Washington Avenue would probably play games every afternoon. Kids at Arbor Hill want to play Minecraft until 2 in the morning. So we got to go with what the public wants because the public's paying for it. They want more hours. They want the libraries to be open more hours and be open the hours that they're available to go to the library. So
the charge, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think the charge on this board is to find more revenue.
Yes.
By a tax increase or by a more a more active foundation that actually has things like an endowment, which we don't have.
And
But building that
also,
into that, as you say, it's probably going to take 5 to 10 years to even get to a point where we have an
and to
endowment.
also look at how we do business now
Yeah.
and go, how do we change this?
Right.
You know, we have a structural deficit, and at the same time, we could add about 20 more staff members to the library easily.
Well, we have to look at our overarching goals. If it's about service, how do we serve, regardless of what resources we have right now, not just books and things, but buildings and and expertise. I mean, a good plan would look at all of those things and say, could we serve more people with less buildings? Could we serve more people with more buildings? Could we serve and serve them differently? This plan doesn't even begin to dive into that, and frankly, that's the conversation I want to have.
There are constraints. You have to remember about the buildings that we bonded. You know that piece.
I'm not.
No, I
I'm
know,
not.
but you
I'm
have
just
to put those
saying.
in the
I'm
mix
saying in
too.
a planning process, you got
Yeah.
to put everything on the
Yeah, you
table.
do.
Nothing is sacred, and
Right.
we didn't do that here, because if we're talking about this overarching service model that is flexible, then we have to look at all our components and decide what is not, what we can't work with or
Right,
whatever.
right,
But
right.
we haven't had that conversation.
And we also have to look at the changing in not just national politics, but local politics, and how that's going to affect our organization. If services are cut and funding starts to be cut in all these different areas, from New Americans to recreation in the city, that's going to have both a positive and negative effect. If money, you know, this is a city that has a $12 million deficit. If they start to fill that hole by closing some of the rec centers earlier or more often, those kids are going to come to us because they know we're there and that bright light is on. We can't do that with the staff that we currently have.
So then what we need is a plan that's about beginning to address some of these issues and building in flexibility and agility. I mean, really, that's what you're talking about. We need
We need an organization that can pivot and
That-
pivot comfortably.
so this does not reflect pivoting. You reflect pivoting. You model pivoting. And so let's try to give you something that we can reflect on. Because you're modeling.
I think the majority of our staff model and reflect pivoting and are comfortable with it, but it's really hard to pivot when you're asked to do a lot. And, you know, I'm starting to see it in the administrative staff. You might start to see it a little bit in me. You know, we want to pivot. That's what we're proud of doing. I think APL has a history of pivoting at times when no other library had the guts to do it. And we want to do that. I think we're told to do it. I just don't think we have enough tools in the tool shed.
So we need to go back to the table and come up with a realistic plan.
Yes.
You're doing all the acrobatics that you can do at this particular time.
Yes.
This is it. Plain and
Yeah,
simple.
my people are
We-
like
and what-
Circus Soleil.
Realistic plan. Move forward.
Yep.
That's what that sounds
Well-
like to me.
I'll make time for it, so schedule it, whether it's a committee or the board, let's do it. I'd like to see it happen in the next month and a half, 2 months. I mean, really, we can't.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have, I apologize, I know this conversation went on a little longer maybe than folks anticipated, but I also think it was the right time and there was an opportunity to have it, honestly and openly, so.
I don't think there's a more important discussion to have.
Yeah,
Right
it's
on.
our.
Aye.
All right. Yeah, I'll just add that, you know, this is always a money thing, as far as I'm concerned. And I think there's always a contingent of folks in this city, well, everyone in the city is overtaxed. Let's not mince words, but there's a contingent of folks in the city who do not avail themselves of city services per se as much as other folks in the city do, and they seem to always drive the conversation about what those folks who need city services really need and don't need. And they're the ones that come out to vote more often than not and have an outsized voice. So that's just my editorial comment for the evening. So moving on to new business, democratic values of APL.
I want to apologize. At the last board meeting in an executive session, we were talking a bit about producing a policy statement or a proclamation in support of the values of APL. I did some research. ALA has a great model for that. I've spoken with Bob about it. He's taken a look at it. It needs some revision to specifically for APL, which I did not get to do before, but I will have something for February review. And it basically is a statement of our values and the discussion with Bob was whether we pass it as policy or we pass it as a resolution, and the library has not had a history of passing resolutions. We only pass policy, so I don't know what that means, but so it's not ready. Sorry.
Fair enough. Okay, well, I assume you'll keep us updated.
Yeah.
I think this is an important thing to keep exploring. 2018 budget discussion.
We have scheduled the budget meeting January 24th, and we will bring to the board a proposed budget in the February meeting. And usually for the new members of the board, we bring you the proposed budget for 2018, and if there's any problems or questions or changes that the board wants to have, then we still can change it and have it changed, but we have to adopt the budget in the March meeting, because then it goes out to vote. That's
What's the
normal.
January 24th meeting?
The finance committee.
committee. Okay.
Yeah. So the finance committee will either bless what we have or have us change it. You know, we either, with finance committee, we either have one or two meetings before the February board meeting.
And all board members are welcome to any committee
Oh yeah,
meeting.
you're welcome to come.
So even if you're not a member of the committee, you're
So
more than welcome.
I could
So we
send
should-
that,
we should
I'll
start
send that
putting
to
those out
everybody
there.
just so that you have the date, and if there's a second meeting, I'll send that to you as well. So it's January 24th right now at Bach at 5:30.
Yeah, and as a member of the finance committee, this may be an important meeting for other members of the board to attend if they have some ideas and input on what revenue should look like for the organization going forward. Do we have any other discussion or comments on that? No? Okay. Board meeting conflicts with Jewish holidays?
Yes. So, I don't have the schedule in front of me now. It was the April
It's on the
meeting.
11th.
It's the April and the.
Is it on here? Do we have it? December also?
It's early.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Yes, so I could miss, which I don't wanna do.
So you're talking about April 11th?
Uh,
Is it conflict?
Yes, I don't have it in my packet.
there's two. There's April 11th and then there's December,
Totally unprepared.
so December 12th would be the first day of Hanukkah.
Yes.
And the 11th
Yeah.
is Passover?
Hanukkah is not really that important, but I think the first day might be an issue, and so the Passover one is one that I
Second
couldn't
day of
miss.
Passover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're willing to change those, or
What has the board done in the past?
Well, we have to take into consideration that this may not only affect board members, but it also may affect members of the public coming to the meeting. So in the past, we have moved meetings when the board, recognizes that it may be a conflict.
I'm just kidding. This is January 24th for the finance. I'm slow.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm putting that in my calendar right now.
But when you typically move meetings, which I think is a good idea,
We usually go front or backwards, so we either go back to the 4th or to the 18th. I think because April is also budget time, and there's a lot of discussion, and there may be some interest from the public coming to the meeting, it may be better to do it earlier instead of moving it up a week, and then it's basically
Also-
very close to the
Rush.
budget vote.
Yeah.
Also, the week of the 18th is school break week.
Yeah, so is it okay we move it to April 4th?
Do you need a motion to do that? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Are we gonna take the dates separately? Should we do that? Okay. So we have a motion and a second to move the April 11th Board of Trustees meeting to April 4th. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's have a vote. Ayes,
Aye.
Aye.
nays, abstentions? Okay.
Did you say that the December date was not as critical? Or would you still like to see it?
Yeah, I
Yes, it's
probably for other people
The
who might be
community,
coming.
yeah.
Sure.
Is the first night of Hanukkah?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's a somewhat less.
To you,
Intent.
it's less.
Well, categorically, Hanukkah is not a Torah holiday, but it becomes important because it's sort of like it's the holiday season. So
so I would suggest moving that back a week instead of forward because
Right.
Yeah, you're getting near the holiday season,
right.
which. So that would be December 4th as well.
5th.
Fifth.
Fifth.
I see the fifth.
Would anybody like to make a motion to move the December 12th Board of Trustees meeting to December 5th? Karen makes that
I'll second.
motion. Brenda seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's have a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay, so it looks like we have moved the April 2017 meeting from the 11th to the 4th, and the December 2017 meeting from the 12th to the 5th. And Matthew, thank you for bringing those points up. Food for Fines project.
So we're taking a page from a few libraries that are out there, which is, and other libraries I've been and have done, is usually the library will pick a month to do some fine forgiveness. And usually the best way to drive this is through donating food to a food pantry or a local organization. Southern Children's Cafe, we've had a long relationship with the person who runs that program. Tracy actually ran an arts program out of this building back in the 2002, 2003, 2004. So we have a great relationship. Her and I have been trying to figure out a way how we connect the library and her program. And what it would be is people who have fines, want to use the library again, would bring in canned goods, and that would replace some of the fines that they have. Then those canned goods would go. This is something I would love to do every year. It creates a lot of goodwill, and also what it does is it brings in people who typically have stopped using their accounts because they have fines. And this kind of gets some new users in there. And I know it's strange to have a conversation about how we need more money to operate and then go, we're going to forgive fines. But if it passes Mary, who is kind of the don't cut off any more money, this will have a very, very minor impact on the operational budget, but a major impact on usage.
So for this branch or for all
For
branches?
all the branches.
So I love the South End Cafe and Tracy and her work, but I wonder if as a citywide organization like the library, we should donate to a broader scope food organization like the food pantries or something.
Our hope is that moving forward, we rotate this every year or every year. We kind of want to just do this as a pilot with the cafe to see how it goes, and then start to involve other organizations, and every year focus on one organization, and then if they get too much food, we make sure that it goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I think going forward that's kind of hard if a not-for-profit organization, if they know that we choose an organization to give it to, then it becomes, what's our criteria for choosing them? That you're friends with Tracy, or that we like what they're doing, but in the scope of hunger, I would support it absolutely going forward. I think it's a great thing to do, but I think we need to be how do we decide the deserving organization?
Okay, that makes sense.
The program sounds amazing and really great. I just wonder, are some people bringing in cans because they can't afford to pay their fine, and aren't those the people who need to get cans? Or I'm a little confused by
How
that.
we've seen it in the past is typically people who, there's more of a feel good to it than anything else.
That's what brings them in.
That's what brings them in. Is I've always had these library fines. I want to get rid of my library fines. I've seen
Good
this
way to
kind of
kill two
promoted.
birds with
It's a
one
good way
stone.
to take out two birds with one stone. You know, and it's usually when you connect it to one organization, they're also promoting it as well. So there's kind of some cross promotion for both organizations.
Yeah, I was just a little worried about like, oh, I have this couple cans of beans, and it could be a person who shouldn't be giving away their cans.
Agreed, and that should be a concern, as well as
And this brings up another idea that's kind of been brewing for me, is kind of a pay it forward idea for people who have built fines and can't afford to pay them.
having other people pay there.
Yes.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, the foundation should absolutely, you could like
That's a
adopt
nice
a
idea.
family at APL, and you could
like
just have somebody write a check. Yeah.
That's a really good
It's a
idea.
really good idea.
Yeah,
This is
you're on fire today.
Hashtag pay it forward.
Cold weather brings it out somehow.
This may be a little weedy, but South End's Children Cafe makes food for people every evening. So are they an organization that's equipped to take random donations from the public and use
Yeah,
them?
we've already spoken with them
Okay.
about it, and they've given us their criteria for food.
Okay, so people will have criteria to,
Yeah, and we've worked on some promotional with that group. We've worked on some promotional things to kind of say, this is what we'll accept, this is what we won't accept.
okay.
My concern is that there have been many organizations here in the South End who have been working tirelessly to keep their coffers filled with cans and food so people can eat. And Tracy's new to town, and this is a few years old, and she's doing a great job, and she's getting a lot of support. But I worry that we've been here a long time, and right in walking distance, there's 2 or 3 food pantries that probably need our help too. So that's, I don't know.
I got it.
Is she getting outsized support compared to some of the longer tenured organizations?
I think she's getting new support. I think she's getting support that the South End hasn't had before, because she comes from someplace else.
That's exactly what I was wondering. That's what my
And you
question
know
was
what,
getting to.
it's serving this very well, and it's it's a great addition.
Well, all hands on deck, right?
Right.
Any additional discussion on the Food Turbines project?
What?
So do you think we should not Do you think we should
I
not
think we
use
should-
her? Let's get this out.
I
because-
think if we're making a contribution to
Yes.
an organization, we who manage public funds should have a process by which we invite organizations to make a case for why we should contribute the month of fines to them. So otherwise, how can we guarantee that, you know,
It's fair.
it's fair?
Yes.
So,
Because you don't want to get the backlash from it if it's
well,
not fair either. So.
I see where you're coming from.
You make a great point.
Because we've had organizations
Yeah.
come to us saying, would you guys be willing to do a food for fine program in
yeah.
the past, and why
So
did
why
we
aren't
choose?
we, right,
Exactly.
because we're choosing her because we like her and we know her and
And that's not a good way to go.
not with public funds.
Okay.
So what I might suggest is that if we'd like to do this, we actually create a program where we will contribute those. Well, we're not contributing funds, we're contributing in lieu of funds.
Donations.
Donated items. So we have we create a program of donated items, we collect them here, and we solicit applications from organizations that might like to benefit from this, and the board will review them, and we'll have some criteria like 501c3, you know, a financial statement, you know, they're on the charities registration list.
And would it necessarily have to then go to one of them, or we could distribute?
Sure, we could decide how to do that.
Okay, so we'll step back from launching this. And then we'll maybe talk about doing this in,
Could do April for National Library Month.
What is that?
April.
April for National Library Month.
Yeah, I mean, you could just get a quick, well, you know how long it takes to do.
Yeah, no, we can
It's
do an
not quick.
RFP. Yeah, we can request.
And how can the board help with that process?
We'll write up an RFP. We'll send it out to everybody, and then the board can review. Everybody who's asking for money, or asking for items.
Can I add, if you don't mind me asking, since the staff has been, you know, involved in developing this plan, is this a situation where we're maybe letting the perfect be the enemy of the good here?
No,
Is this something
no.
that, like, timing wise, calendar specific need this time of year? Would this encumber?
No, it's a weird time of year, and we agreed it was a weird time of year. So,
We didn't want to do something around the holidays because everybody does it around the holidays, and we wanted to make sure it was ordered.
we didn't want to do it right after the holidays because you end up with a lot of yams. And this is what we don't want.
Fruitcake.
Fruitcake. So this may be a good thing to do for, what's the deadline for the April program guide? So,
So May, June would be the next one. So it's okay if we miss the program, we'll promote it in some other ways.
okay.
Cool. Yeah, throw some marshmallows up on those yams, get some walnuts in there, the whole thing.
I think after the holiday season, everybody's yammed out.
That's fair. The biannual update on APL Foundation.
Alexis was not able to make it tonight, but as I reported, he has started. He's doing a fantastic job, and kind of taken some of the work off of the staff who have been doing it for some years. We had a meeting with him today. He's been meeting with staff. He has great ideas. I think the foundation, and Andy sits on the foundation as well, I think the foundation's heading in the right direction. Holly couldn't be here tonight either because she is traveling. So I think we'll have a report hopefully with Holly or Lex next quarter, and I think we're gonna get some good news from them.
Anybody have any questions on that item?
now the staff report of technology isn't gonna happen, so.
All right, and we have no staff report on technology. Or I'm sure there is one, it just will not happen today. We have any public comments? I see some members of the public have wanted in. No, just hanging in.
That's just me.
Yeah.
I am Janasa Saiz. I am the branch librarian here, and I am representing the bargaining unit for this meeting. So we are hopeful that we can come to a positive compromise and get a contract this year.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any anything you want to share in addition to that?
To the contract or to the negotiation?
To the negotiations, anything at all, any insight that you wanted, and I understand that may be an unusual a request.
I guess I will only share that it's our second month into our insurance plan, and we're all experiencing a little sticker shock with our medications. I know I'm in the mid-level Blue Cross Blue Shield, and because of the way we accelerated getting into a plan, some of us weren't able to digest all the information on the plans, and so some things were kind of hidden. And I know that we've all been discussing that our copay doesn't actually kick in until we hit the deductible. So for me, the family plan is we have to hit $3,000 before my regular visit will be $40 and my prescription will be $50. So I don't know if it would be any different if I chose another plan, but that's what we're locked into for the next year. And a lot of that you wouldn't know until you're actually in the plan. And I know that that's for many of us that have several dependents. It's a heavy burden, because I know for my daughter, she takes a monthly medication, Singular, and she's got asthma, so that's already, I know I spent in the first 2 weeks $800 of my flex money to pay for that. So I'm just setting that out there, that it is almost a topic of discussion every day amongst my coworkers.
Do you feel the bargaining unit is adequately representing your interest in the contract negotiations?
I think that they are doing their best. I'm not sure what their schedule is right now with meeting with administration, but I think that, from my perspective, I want to say everyone's doing their best to keep everyone's, what the library's bottom line is, and then what they can do for the staff, close to the vest. But I will also say that, we have access to see through New York, and we know what everyone else is earning. So in order to maintain competitive in the capital region, you might want to, keep that in mind.
And that's something that the bargaining unit is obviously bringing to the table in the contract negotiations, is ensuring that the members of the unit are adequately compensated in relation to other employees of libraries regionally.
Yeah, of our titles, yes.
Okay. Well, thanks
Thank
for
you so much.
sharing that,
Thank
and
you.
thanks for everything
Thanks for
you
putting me on the spot.
do every day. That's what I do best.
Yes.
That's when people are either most honest or most dishonest. And I think you were most honest, so thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, you got the copay.
It is what it is.
There's no additional public comment. I don't think we have a need for executive session unless someone wants to do that. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to.
Andy, motion to adjourn. I'll take Alyssa as a second. Do you have any ayes?
Aye.
ayes? Any nays? Any abstentions? Seeing none.
There was no
Call the
discussion.
meeting to close. Next meeting is February 14th at Bach.
Thank you for
Thank you.
meeting us.